Hi everyone, it's Sally again, back with video 6 on this series on using a silver reed type of knitting machine. And in this one we're going to be looking at increasing and decreasing. Obviously important techniques for knitting garments that need shaping. Now with your machine you've got 3 of these tools, transfer tools, a 1x2, a 1x3 and a 3x2, used for transferring stitches and also very useful when you come to do cables. I will probably need the 3x1 and 2x1 on this video, not the other one, so we'll keep those handy. So I've done a bit of knitting, and let's start with increasing. So the quickest and easiest way to do an increase is literally to pull a needle out into work. Now for most of these techniques you can do it on both sides of the carriage of the work simultaneously. So pull the needle out, and as you saw when we did the cast on rag a couple of videos back, it will put a loop on the edge of the knitting, which is fine if you are going to sew that into a seam. It won't notice afterwards. And also it will be fine if you don't particularly want your increase visible on the work from the front. So let's just put a little loop onto the stitch, which then knits back. So that's a simple increase. You can make fully fashioned increases, which are the ones that look like nice rows of chevrons on the front of your work, by using these transfer tools. Now take 2, you can either use 2 or 3, so I'm going to use the 2 stitch on one side, lift off the 2 stitches and move them out 1 needle and replace them, and you've now got an empty needle that's got no stitch in it. So to fill that space you need to pick up what they call the heel stitch, which is the bump underneath the loop that's in this needle. So pick up the heel and put it onto the empty needle. And you do the same on this side. You can do it with a 3-prong tool. Move the stitches out 1 space. And again, pick up the heel on the inside stitch and put that onto the empty needle, and then knit a couple of rows. So that makes what is called a fully fashioned increase as opposed to a simple increase. They look very nice on raglan sweaters in particular, where you know, they make a nice V shape up to the neck on those sweaters. So let's do that again. There's the 2 stitch one, move it out 1 space, pick up the heel stitch and put it on the empty needle, and over here is the 3 stitch one, move them out 1 space. And it helps to get that heel stitch if you pull that needle back slightly. It'll make the little bump pop up a bit easier. Fill up the empty needle. So those are 1 stitch increases. If you need to make a 2 stitch increase, this is more commonly done with 3-prong tool. I'm actually going to loosen the tension off on this, it's a bit tight. On 7, it's quite a thick 4-ply. Right, so a double increase is where you move this out 2 spaces, 1, 2, and so you've now got 2 empty needles to fill. Well, you fill that, the right hand one with the heel from the right hand stitch and the left hand one with the heel from the left hand stitch. I would do the right hand one first. Oops. Just make sure you're just getting the heel and not any other threads as well. And so you can use this on sleeve increases or raglan decreases. say your instructions say decrease 1 stitch every 4 rows, you can actually decrease 2 stitches every 8 rows. So you don't have to stop quite so often. The same with sleeves, you increase 1 stitch every 5 rows, increase 2 stitches every 10 instead. So I'll do this again over here. Into there. So pick up the heel stitch for that one and the heel stitch for that one as well. So these will, when we look at it afterwards, they'll show up more readily from the front of the work. So that's how to do fully fashioned increasing. If you need to do a multiple increase, you can only do this on the carriage side because you need to E-wrap. So if I pull out, say, 5 needles, I need to increase by 5. You would do this, for example, if you were knitting maybe like a T-shaped top, or all in where the short sleeves are all in one. You do a multiple increase, or sometimes with sideways knitting, you might want to make a multiple increase of this nature. So you're then going to just pull this yarn out a little bit, make a bit of a slack, and E-wrap back towards the carriage. So start obviously from the side nearest the knitting and finish on the side nearest the carriage, and there is your E-wrap increase. And yet again, this is one of those things where the ravel cord comes in handy. So you could hold it down, just those few extra new stitches with a ravel cord, until you've got enough to hang the weight on that area. And likewise, if you're going to do it on the left hand side, oops, I've got a fluff bunny. I always find this harder to do in this direction. It doesn't come naturally to me, E-wrapping the opposite way. 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And again, a bit of ravel cord in there. Pull it out and put the weight on. Now for decreasing, you can either do an easy decrease by moving 1 stitch in from the edge onto its neighbour, so that will not show on the face of the work. But most people more commonly use fully fashioned decreasing again because they like to have a nice visual impact. So, well, we'll just use the 3-prong tool. You can use 2 or 3. You just lift your stitches off and move them in one place, and then put the last 2 back out again. Again, you can do this on both sides simultaneously. You don't have to do right then left or left then right. So let's do it simultaneously. Now I always find it useful to pull the stitches that I've worked on out to D, because then if I get distracted and I come back and think, oh, did I decrease, did I increase, did I? If the needles are out, I know that I've done it. And again, you can do a double decrease. I've done a lovely poncho pattern that makes use of a double decrease, where you move them over 2 places instead of 1. So then you're just bringing 1 needle back out to work. And pull them out to D. Or if you're just going to use it for raglans, you can do it at half the frequency. Oh, there we go. That's a double decrease. If you want to do a multiple decrease, this is like the multiple increase. You can only do it on the side of the carriage, and you have to do it as a cast off. So again, I do around the gate peg cast off. I'll just do 3 or 4 stitches. 1, oops, can't see. 2, 3, 4. So that's a multiple decrease. I had to take the thread out of the carriage to do that, so now rethread it back, make sure it goes in, and remember that you've now got these suspended on gate pegs. So knit across and remove from the gate pegs so that they won't bunch up your knitting going forwards. And then if you're going to do it on the other side, again, you can only do this on the carriage side. So 3, 4. Make sure the yarn is threaded through the carriage and knit back and remove from the sinker posts. So a multiple decrease is just effectively casting off. So that's the basic techniques. I would practice them. Also practice holding your tools. I always sort of liken this a bit like teaching babies to use cutlery, and when they start first to use spoons and forks and things, they usually end up with more of their dinner all over them rather than in them. The same with transfer tools. You know, you're going to seem like you're extremely cack-handed when you first start to do this, because again, it's new muscle memory you've got to cultivate, and holding the tools properly. You know, is there a proper way? Who knows? It's the way I do it. I hold it so that it's in the flat of my hand like that. Don't hold them like pens. They need to be held like that. And try not to tip the things up and down too much. If you just pull it towards you and push back, it should just come off nice and easily. Pull towards you and use your left hand to, you always remember you've got 2 hands. Put your other hand underneath and pull it out. Makes it easier for it to come off like that. But again, pull out, push in and lift over. And pull out, but hold it back with your thumb or finger on your other hand and knit over. So just if you're wondering about tools, just think egg and baked beans. Do I want to cover myself in egg and baked beans? No, I want to hold these properly and learn to use them efficiently. Everybody will have a different preference, different method, but that's how I do it. Seems to work for me okay. And by pulling the needles out so they're out in D position, you're going to get less of this sort of like tendency to tip. And tipping, as you can just see there, has now put my yarn over the sinker posts. And if you tip up, gravity can take hold and slide stitches off the transfer tool, whereas if you're holding it flat or tipping it upwards, it'll keep them on the transfer tool. So just be aware of gravity. I think that's probably all I need to say on the subject of increasing and decreasing. Say yes, very useful techniques when it comes to knitting clothes. So on the next one, we will be looking at holding and short rowing. Again, very useful techniques for garment making. So let's just take this off and have a little look at the various things. If we can see them. So there's your increases. So your simple increase is just a loop down at the bottom edge. Your fully fashions are these ones where you can actually see them in the knitting. There and there. Your multiple increase, and then the decreases. That's the single one, and that's the double one, a lot more visible to the eye. The multiple decrease, which is the cast off, and so on. So, and techniques to practice. See you on the next one.